You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. We continue what we've been doing since last week, our LSU football position preview series. Today, we will take a look at the linebacker position. This is, of course, Matt House's specialty. LSU defensive coordinator, who was not only the DC but the linebacker coach at Kentucky. So he's got SEC defensive coordinator and linebacker coach experience. Served that role with the Kansas City Chiefs as well before he came to Baton Rouge. And as the defensive coordinator, he will now fill that role looking at the linebackers. Here's what Matt House had to say about his linebackers coming out of spring.
Well, number one thing is they're willing workers, willing learners. They're willing on the field. They're not scared to put in extra work. And that's the first thing, right? And there is some talent, right? They wouldn't be here if there wasn't some level of talent. Maybe not a lot of playing experience, but there is some talent. And, with willing guys, we'll get something out of them.
Hammer, meet, nail. Damone Clark took his 135 tackles with him to the NFL. Do you realize that if Damone Clark had played in the bowl game, he would have led college football in tackles last year? I mean, when I think of memorable moments from the 2021 LSU football season, they were few and far between. Dre Jenkins, touchdown against Texas A&M, game winner, phenomenal. Ty Davis-Price setting an LSU and SEC single-game rushing record against Florida. Incredible. And I think about Damone Clark smashing Jerrion Ealy at the goal line in Oxford when LSU was getting its ass kicked. But that was the only guy with enough give-a-damn when you're getting boat raced to beat a guy to the pylon and dislodge the football. Damone Clark was a monster. He was the best linebacker in football last year. Not saying he was the best NFL prospect, but he was the best linebacker in college football last year. He's gone. And do you realize that the second leading tackler on LSU's team was Micah Baskerville with 83? It's his time to shine. Micah Baskerville, whenever he announced that he was returning to LSU for his senior season, the reasons that he gave in his tweet announcing that he was returning to LSU were completely selfless. This is the kind of thing you'd love to see from a leader on your football team. Baskerville tweeted a graphic where he said, "They appreciate all the opportunities at LSU," and he said, "I am going to come back, graduate, and help Coach Kelly and the rest of the staff get the Tigers back to where we're supposed to be at the top." That's what Baskerville said when he announced he was coming back. It's his turn to step up and be next in that line. His 83 tackles return, and after Baskerville, the next leading tacklers among linebackers. Mike Jones had 34. Bug Strong had 17. Remember that name? And then Greg Penn had 11. Your number 2 and 3 returning tacklers from a year ago didn't even equal the amount of tackles that Damone Clark had. That's how big of a gap, a big of a loss Damone Clark is. Baskerville, Jones, Penn. That is a good linebacker core. As Matt House said, that's a talented linebacker core. You got numbers there. You've got guys with some talent. Who's going to step up and do it? That is the gigantic question right now for linebackers. By the way, here's what Matt House had to say about the aforementioned Micah Baskerville.
Micah's improved. He's got to keep improving, and he will. I really don't look at it. I told those guys, and don't read too much into who's running out there when the first group goes and who runs out there with the second group right now, right? Because, don't look at where you're at in the line. The reality is all that matters is when you line up against Florida State, and we're going to need more than 11, I can promise you.
Baskerville's been there and done it. Mike Jones was a projected first-round draft pick in mock drafts a year ago at this time. And Greg Penn is someone they love. They got a lot of hype around him, but those guys have to step up. Here's what Brian Kelly said he likes about Mike Jones at linebacker.
Well, he's got athleticism, certainly. He's a really good athlete. He's physically strong. Look, we brought in Wes Weeks because we wanted to add some more experience at the position. I think what we felt like we were missing was communication skills, and he does a really good job now of communicating. That position, it's right down the middle. It's the quarterback. It's the center, the middle linebacker. You need a great communicator. And he's taken that and he's run with it. So you need a communicator in the middle of your defense. He's doing that. He has the skill set and he has experience. And so so far it's been a good transition for us with him in the middle.
That is in part why Mike Jones is representing LSU at SEC Football Media Days. Be your starting middle linebacker this year. See if he can have a big year. Remember, there's 3 other scholarship linebackers that are still hanging around. Phillip Webb, Antoine Sampa, and Jared Small. Webb has played in just 3 games. Last year as a redshirt freshman, had only 1 tackle. Antoine Sampa's played in 6 games in 2 years, has not recorded a stat. And Jared Small is a former walk-on who was going to be a starting linebacker for LSU last year against UCLA, but tore his ACL the week of the UCLA game and missed the entire season. How does he factor in? That'll be interesting to watch. And they've added 4 linebackers. You heard Brian Kelly there mention West Weeks. Last year as a true freshman at the University of Virginia, played in 11 games with 1 start, had 31 tackles. For perspective, he would have been right behind Mike Jones, who last year had 34 tackles at LSU as a transfer coming in from Clemson. Kolbe Fields spent 1 season at the University of South Carolina, former Rummel Raider. As a true freshman last year, played in just 4 games for the Gamecocks, but he comes in and provides depth as well. And then the 2 freshmen, Harold Perkins, 5-star, the number 8 overall player in the country, the number 2 linebacker, and DeMario Tolan, a 4-star, number 204 nationally, the 20th ranked linebacker in the country. Harold Perkins is the highest rated linebacker that LSU has ever signed, at least as best as I could find scrolling the history of the 247 composite. They've never had a linebacker ranked as high as number 8 in the country in a single class. A ton of expectation for Harold Perkins. How soon can he get on the field, and what will the expectations be when he gets on the field? Matt House, he's handled the linebacker. Talked about it. He has got to maximize this position group. In his 2 seasons as the defensive coordinator, linebackers coach at Kentucky, in 2017, Mike Edwards and Courtney Love, remember those names? Those were Kentucky's leading tacklers. Their 3rd leading tackler was a guy named Josh Allen, who became a first-round draft pick. In 2018, Josh Allen was the leader of that defense, 21.5 tackles for loss and 17 sacks. They had their 4 leading tacklers at Kentucky that year were all linebackers who had 88, 86, 84, and 82 tackles, respectively. That was maximizing production out of that room. That's what Matt House is going to look to do with this group this year. I don't know that it'll necessarily be one guy with 135 tackles like Damone Clark had, but you may see the combination of Baskerville, Jones, Penn, Weeks, all have really fine seasons in a rotation that become the core in the middle of that LSU defense if they're able to develop. Like Brian Kelly said, they got really good players. They got talent. They just got to go out there and do it. Big question mark around that position group. Who will step up this year? Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.